Bayonetta has been on my backlog for ages now. I was so convinced that I would like it that I bought it on both PlayStation and PC. Since buying it, I watched the film Bayonetta Bloody Fate, which is a retelling of the story, so I was somewhat familiar with much of what was happening narrative-wise. I've also dabbled in the game before, but on PS4, and never made it past the runaway subcar sequence. This time, I decided to sit down and give the game a proper go on my PC. My goal was to beat the game on normal, and possibly shoot for the 100% if I found myself enjoying it enough. My hopes weren't super high, as the hack and slash genre has never been my personal strong suit, but I completed my goal, and here are my thoughts on the game. Bayonetta is one of those games that truly thrives once the player gets good. The first playthrough on normal is absolutely the hardest that the game is ever going to be, beating out hard and infinite climax modes, both of which can be beaten with a plethora of weapons and items that you unlock during normal. It's a game that rewards those who stick with it, and boy am I glad that I did. It follows Bayonetta, an umbral witch with severe memory loss, as she battles the heavens in order to uncover her past, and something about alleviating the demons, etc. I don't really know. She uses her hair to great effect, and honestly, Bayonetta is one of the most entertaining protagonists that I've played in a while. I can't believe I'm saying this, but she owns her sexiness without it coming off as super cringy, most of the time at least, and has a certified CUNT card. Along for the ride are a colourful cast of characters. The first one we meet is Jeanne, and whatever the hell it is that she has going on with Bayonetta. None of the rest live up to Jeanne, but I will talk about them anyway. Enzo and Rodin are up next, and they are very different from each other. Enzo is a little bit of a flop character, whose main purpose is comic relief, yet he is the most unfunny of the bunch. To be honest, Rodin is a huge step up. He is the local badass bar owner and weapons dealer, who is one of the most amazing entrances within the series. Bested only by Bayonetta herself. Girl. Last and low-key least is Luca, a reporter hell-bent on exposing Bayonetta, as he believes that Bayonetta was responsible for his father's death. He also has some sort of romantic thing with Bayonetta, but there's absolutely no chemistry between them. Most of the characters have some pretty great moments.
Now, this is cheeky. Throwing me these cheap toys.
Don't worry about quality. I've got quantity.
Don't fuck with a witch.
But the story itself never really grabbed me. It is told through both fully animated cutscenes and still images on a film roll, and it does look pretty stylish, even if it was probably due to budgetary restrictions. There's some back and forth time travel, I think, but it isn't really clear, and the whole game essentially builds up to Bayonetta being a chosen one and taking down the big bad that wants to use her against her will. The immersion, however, is definitely carried by the vocal performances and visual presentation. Most of the chapters are fairly similar in level design. There's a cutscene, you fight, you make it to the next area. However, some choose to deviate to varying degrees of success. The lesser of the two evils is the bike segment, whose main problem is the fact that it's hard to tell if you're actually making any progress for around 2/3 of the sequence. It also goes on for a tad too long for my liking. These grievances, however, have nothing on chapter 14. This is a boat chase sequence, and I am now fully convinced that I have motion sickness after completing it. It is a horrible level on all fronts, possibly even the worst chapter in the whole game. Thankfully, most of the other chapters stick to the standard hack and slash, where the only casualty is carpal tunnel syndrome. A lot of locations are reused throughout the game, making it feel contained, especially in the beginning. It is interesting to revisit places after different story beats, and see how it has changed since the last time. Sometimes it is changes to the visuals, other times it requires a new challenge to overcome. As you progress, Bayonetta remembers more, giving locations more significance to the story. Whilst I can imagine that budget was partially responsible, none of the set pieces overstay their welcome and it looks pretty good throughout. As I said before, the first playthrough is the hardest. As someone who isn't blessed with combo execution, I found it doubly hard to get to grips with Bayonetta's moveset. The Y and B buttons are the main two when it comes to combat, yet I found myself panic spamming X and A to do minimal damage with my guns. The most important tool to master is the dodge to activate witch time. It takes a few tries to get the timing down pat, but I found I could execute it pretty regularly by the end of chapter 1. There is also dodge offset, a lifesaver on harder difficulties, but I admit that I still struggle to pull this off consistently. It isn't just the combos and combat that take some getting used to, but the differing enemies with specific movesets and the challenge that the camera can sometimes pose. The camera has a mind of its own which can hinder the gameplay. There are times when you die through no fault other than the camera. This is made even worse when you're up against a new enemy type. You start off facing basic angels, and these are probably the most recognisable, with their skeletal bird-like features. As you progress, more variations are introduced, with some being more frustrating than others. Of fucking course! Why wouldn't you center the fucking camera angle? What the fuck is this? You kind of bullshit. Die! Am I even still on the ship? I can't even see. Let me see if I'm still on the fucking ship. Yeah. Fucking die! Get your fucking gold medal, I don't want that shit. They can be tricky to master, especially those who rely on speed. Some have the extra factor of also being visually distracting, let's say. Right. Oh, I'm... No. No. Oh, thank you. The larger enemies tend to be slower, with easier to telegraph attacks that can be dodged or countered, including the majority of bosses. The bosses are spread out throughout the chapters, and all of them have their own design and gimmick. However, Bayonetta takes a page from anime and makes the humanoids the hardest to fight. Both Father and Jean gave me more trouble than the big guys, and arguably Jubileus too. They are quick, counter well, and are far harder to read when it comes to moves. Thankfully, the checkpoints are fairly kind in this game, and death doesn't always mean starting from the beginning. However, the most challenging part of my first playthrough experience has to be the Alfheim portals. I ran into 2 on my first playthrough, and they almost broke me. Alpine portals are optional challenge areas that set a goal to be done within a specific time. They involve executing certain moves, beating it without using witch time, and other requirements. They are really challenging for a newbie, and require both practice and skill. I barely had either.
I open my eyes, I try to see, but I'm blinded by the white line. I can't remember how, I can't remember why I'm lying here tonight, and I can't stand the pain, and I can't make it go away. No, I can't stand the pain. How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes, got nowhere to run. The night goes on as I'm fading away. I'm sick of this life, I just wanna scream. How could this happen to me?
It was really depleting and humbling, to the point that I feared the next one. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh shit, here we go again.
They put me through so much that I was delusional by the end, and said, I did it. Okay, it wasn't actually that bad. I really didn't enjoy my time during the first playthrough. I pretty much ended every chapter with a stone. But why did I continue then, I hear you ask? Because I was addicted. Addicted to getting better. Addicted to just one more try. Addicted to stomping on the struggle. There's just something about this game that keeps you coming back for more. I am now finished with my climax playthrough, with only the collectibles left after that at the time of recording. And I know I'm going to hate seeing her go when I'm finished. But damn, are we going to enjoy watching her leave.